Environmental racism. According to ProPublica, landfills, chemical waste facilities, and power plants are more often built in poor and minority communities, which don't have the power or money to advocate for themselves. Environmental racism is the disproportionate impact of environmental hazards on people of color, while environmental justice is the movement's response to environmental racism. So what causes this disproportionate impact? Well, there are many reasons, but the main ones are intentional neglect, the false belief of a need for a space for pollutants in urban areas, a lack of institutional power of people of color, and a greater rate of poverty among people of color. These reasons, in turn, cause an overarching effect where communities of color and low-income communities are disproportionately impacted by polluting industries. For example, Black people are exposed to about 1.5 times more particulate matter than white people, and Hispanics had about 1.2 times the exposure of non-Hispanic whites. In fact, race is the number one predictor of someone living near contaminated water, air, or soil. Specifically, African American, Latino, Indigenous, and low-income communities face the most disparities when it comes to being on the receiving end of pollution, which contributes to extreme health problems. One alarming statistic from Yale even says that an African American child is 3 times more likely to go into the emergency room for an asthma attack than a white child, and twice as likely to die from an asthma attack as a white child. Additionally, African Americans are also more likely to die from lung disease while being less likely to smoke. So, what needs to be done? First off, we need real strategies that can help reduce climate change and slow down and eventually stop the climate crisis we are currently in the midst of. Second, we need to vote and protest until there's a real and working plan in government to reduce carbon emissions. Third, vulnerable communities must be protected with real policies. Period. And lastly, we must disrupt the systematic racism that is rooted in capitalism.